The global pandemic of the coronavirus has caused apocalyptic scenes across the world. Flights have been cancelled, airports, schools, and whole countries have been completely locked down. At one level, we can simply see this as the consequence of an absurd culture that happily devours bats and snakes. Or we can seek to explain this crisis through various conspiracy theories involving warring nations. But even if one of these explanations were true, it does not take away the possibility of seeing this situation from a much higher dharmic perspective. Dharma states that each one of us has a purpose. There is a reason why we have come into existence, and there is an optimal path that is specifically designed for our soul. Following on from this, everyone's individual dharma is part of a cosmic order that binds all our paths together. This cosmic order is known as Rita. When we all perform our dharma and live out the potential inside of us, then this cosmic order remains balanced. But when sufficient numbers of us have strayed far enough from our path, then nature reacts to restore this balance. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that he has come to establish this harmony, and he shows Arjuna in his divine form how all his enemies have already been destroyed. The great war Arjuna is about to fight has been entirely orchestrated by Krishna to once again restore Dharma on earth. So, does this imply that the coronavirus pandemic is some act of vengeance on humanity? Not really. Rebalancing the cosmic order does not mean God's anger is upon us, but it does mean a degree of change is needed. Although the spread of the coronavirus is a global event involving everybody, each of us will face it according to our own individual dharma and our own individual karma. Karma is anything we do that produces results. Throughout previous lives, we have performed actions, had thoughts, feelings, and desires. All of these have produced our current circumstances, our place of birth, our family relationships, our health, talents, and character have all been brought about by our karma. But while karmic activity sets up the context of our life, dharma is the correct way to navigate ourselves within that context. It is the best path to walk given the circumstances we are in. It is the way in which we can best grow spiritually. At one level, everyone across the world is facing the same calamity, but in reality, each of us is individually dealing with the same calamity in a completely different way. The cosmic order is being recalibrated, and what this means for each one of us is that our own individual dharma is being re-established. If we look at the effects of this global crisis, everybody has been forced into different challenges. Some are having to face the fear of death and realise the precious nature of life. Others are having to come to terms with immense financial difficulties. And some are having to deal with prolonged social isolation. Such challenges are specifically designed to bring each one of us back to our innate purpose. They come about to make us reflect and see what is important. They are there to make us face the issues we have suppressed or denied. Life is constantly trying to make us more spiritually conscious and live in line with the reason we have been born. But why, we might ask, does this have to be done in such a harsh way? Why can't there be a more direct and easier method with which to learn? The truth is, transformation will only happen when we are challenged. Our mind and ego have a natural tendency to take things for granted. When events are going according to our expectation, when our desires are being fulfilled, there is less impetus to seek higher meaning. There is less of a need to humble ourselves and seek out what our life is really about. Superficial understandings do not lead to core transformation. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a prayer that Queen Kunti makes to Krishna. After years of persecution from the Kauravas, she remembers how Krishna always stood by and supported her throughout. She appeals to him and states, "I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer experience repeated births and deaths." To an ordinary person, such a prayer is completely baffling because they fail to understand the nature of a devotee. For Kunti, the pleasures of the material world are meaningless. God is all she wants. She knows the more we go through difficulties, the more we will distance ourselves from what is temporary, and the more we'll be drawn to what is eternal. Challenges, even tragedies, have the power to awaken us to truth if we can accept them in the right way, without bitterness or self-pity. To those who are longing for spiritual growth, difficulties are welcomed since they can propel us forward to the next stage of development. They deny what we superficially want and bring us closer to what we truly want. Krishna states in the Gita, that happiness which in the beginning is just like poison but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Real profound joy reveals itself after our ego and superficial desires have been eroded away. While this can be an intense and sometimes traumatic process, it can lead us to a more conscious state that aligns us with our soul's purpose. The coronavirus poses huge issues for governments, communities, and individuals, but in catastrophe, there is an opportunity for inner growth. For that, we have to be ready to bow down to the situation. Hindus worship stones, rivers, and even animals, not because they are simplistic and naive, but because they realize that God reveals himself in any situation if we have humility and gratitude. Divine wisdom manifests in whatever we sincerely worship. The Covid-19 global pandemic is just another scenario in which we need to bow down. Whilst taking all the necessary precautions against infection, we have to take time to understand why this is happening to us. Instead of giving in to fear and despair, we should meditate on what we are being taught. We need to ask if we have lost sight of the beauty of life. Have we taken the simple things for granted? Have we lost touch with the people around us? Have we forgotten what it is to selflessly serve others who are more vulnerable? It is easy to believe that life is random and coincidental, that there is just a series of aimless causes and effects. But living a dharmic life, however, is not just about working towards states of consciousness. It means we see that everything around us is happening for a reason. Krishna states, "This material world of mine, consisting of the three modes of nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered to me can easily cross beyond it." In other words, it is difficult to transcend the chaos of the world and see who and what is behind it, but through a sincere humbleness we can work out what changes we need to make. The coronavirus makes no distinctions between the rich and powerful, between different nations, or between different religions. In the same way, Dharma is a universal principle for humanity. This call to live out one's purpose is not limited to Hindus. It is something that every one of us needs to strive for. Many thanks for listening.